Yay! Welcome to Female Founderhood podcast. This is where two female founders hang out having virtual coffee or cocktail, depending on the level of sobriety that we have. But this is where you eavesdrop on honest, transparent, vulnerable conversations between two women in the trenches because what we don't want is for you to feel FOMO or imposter syndrome or anything like that. What we want you to feel is that there's another girl, there's another woman, there's another mother there struggling just like me. So, and my guest today is so different to my entire roster of guests because she is a literal beauty queen. Hi, Shannelle.
Hi, Rebecca. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on this call today.
Okay, I'm gonna read Shannelle's bio. So, Shannelle is the founder of Miss World Glow and Miss Canada Glow. Oh my God. I think you're my first Canadian in the show as well.
Oh.
And Chanel just told me that not only that she is a beauty queen, she's a mother and she has a day job. So tell me a little bit from the beginning, like what did you want to be when you grow up? Like, did you always imagine? Because as a kid, you, especially stereotypically as a girl, you want to be a princess, right? So, did you ever imagine to run and win pageant?
Not at all. I came from a very conservative background. I actually wanted to be like a competitive figure skater and then follow my dad's footsteps into international business. So it was very, very different when I found myself in the Miss Canada Globe pageant, like the Miss Canada Globe pageant back in 2008.
Mm.
So it wasn't on my radar. It just kind of happened. The opportunity happened. I was walking down a market one day, like with my family, and there was a figure skater that I had trained with who had like her roller skates on, her sash and her crown. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. Where did you get that? How can I be a part of this? Because it's true. Girls always want to be a princess, but like, how can we actually get the crown when it belongs in UK? Right?
Long live the queen!
Oh, I mean, Star Queen. Well, it is long live the queen. Well,
Literally,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, so that's kind of where it all started. It was a very new thing. Because I was so entrenched in figure skating, my parents actually homeschooled me. So
Wow.
my parents were very much involved, like, okay, well, give us a good reason why you should be involved in a pageant like this, because it's not, something our family is accustomed to.
Uh-huh.
It's very, very liberating, right? And so, and it's out there, like you're on a stage in front of judges being judged. Well, even though figure skating, I was being judged, it was just there's different components to it, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so
But
I
equally physical,
absolutely, absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
And if I can sort of peek into your young brain, your teenage brain, we as young girls, we are already having some level of insecurities about our bodies, pimples, the level of tan. Someone is like saying that, oh, I'm too white, I'm too dark, and oh my God, my teeth, my hair is not straight enough. So the whole thing that any teenage girls go through, did you go through all that as well?
So, know what? Leading up into the pageant, my experience in my mind was like, let's just put everything into it and be as involved as I can be to get the most experience out of it. So, one of my mottos that I grew up with telling myself was never take anything for granted, but take it for an experience. And
Mm.
I did. I didn't have any expectations of winning. I just was like, this is my opportunity to meet all other kinds of women from across Canada, become
Mm-hmm.
friends for the rest of our lives, which has happened,
Mm-hmm.
and just take it as the just show up and do the best that I can. So I did. Now, once I ended up winning, that was my first year ever doing a pageant, but I truly believe that because I just put everything into it,
Mm-hmm.
that goal of achieving Miss Canada, like when I became top 5, like top 10, then top 5, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, now it's in the hat. Now I got it. Right. And at
Mm-hmm.
that point, I was like, now I'm going for the top. Like my answers now matter. Now I'm going for the
Mm-hmm.
so it was when I won Miss Canada and preparing myself for Miss Globe International.
Mm-hmm.
That was the point where I was like, okay, now I'm looking at my body. And
Right.
throughout that, I will say our pageant directors were very careful, but
Mm-hmm.
there were times where they're like, Shannelle, you're gaining a little bit of weight. That really hurt. So I was still so young. I was their youngest winner.
How old were you?
I was 19 when I won.
Mm.
So I was like at the lowest of the like the bottom of the girls. Like it was between like 18 to
Mm-hmm.
uh 26 or 27.
Mm-hmm.
So and being homeschooled, I felt like there were so many social aspects that I was still learning. Um
Mm.
so there's a lot of different things going on. So I think when it came to my body, it was more so leading up to the international pageant where I'm like, oh, like I have a strawberry birthmark on my leg and I've got a birthmark on my back. And,
Oh.
yes, I got my teeth whitened. Yes, I went to go and make sure that, all hair was gone. Right. But in terms of like enhancements and things, I actually found more not criticism, but more
Mm-hmm.
of like a conversation when I got to Miss Globe. And when I was surrounded by other girls who have done pageants since they were younger, who
Mm-hmm.
had implants, who had their lips done, who had
Mm-hmm.
like their lifts done. And
Yeah.
everyone literally went around the room saying, I've got this done, I've got that done. And I'm like, hi, I experienced threading for the first time and waxing everywhere. So
And
really
how
quickly,
did you feel?
in that moment, I felt a little bit torn because I was like,
Mm.
I'm the odd one out.
Yeah.
But then I was retelling myself, but no, I'm the purest one here.
Mm.
And it's like I came to represent Canada
Mm-hmm.
myself.
Mm.
And that was really important to me during the whole process of being in that pageant, Miss
Mm-hmm.
Canada, and leading up to it was my parents were just like, Shannelle, just be yourself because
Mm-hmm.
yourself is enough. And that
Mm-hmm.
is something that we have to constantly be telling our young girls. Like I have a daughter
Mm-hmm.
and it's so important that there are so many things going on in our minds. There are so many things that we see in television. We have to be strong ourselves. We need to really entrench a good, positive mindset in
Mm-hmm.
order to overcome the
Mm.
different things that we're going to be seeing or being.
Mm. So what do you think that you had such positive outlook or positive body image about yourself that when you see other people looking so like already the retouched version of themselves, um, that you didn't waver, that, oh, you do you, but I will just keep doing me? Is it because you were homeschooled and therefore you are used to just having only your close knit family and friends, um, without the entire, the burden of the entire school looking at you, etc.? So what do you think?
That's a really good question. And I think that was absolutely a contributor. I
Mm-hmm.
also think that because I was constantly being judged as a figure skater, that I was used to having people look at me and look at me on the ice and judge me for
Mm,
who I am. And
mm,
I'm not saying that just because I was a competitive figure skater, there were so many competitions where I was like last, second last, fourth last.
mm,
And then when I was constantly trying to build myself up. So there were moments where I was, devastated after a competition because I had fallen or I had just not succeeded the way I was planning or hoping to, but
Yeah.
I had this thing of let's always try to build up. And
Mm-hmm.
I learned from a young age that you're not always going to come first and you're not always going to be the best, but
Mm-hmm.
you can always do the best that you can be. Like you can only do the best that you can achieve. And I
Yeah.
think that that was something that was so ingrained in me that when I
Mm-hmm.
came to the international pageant, it was like, well, I'm here. I'm so grateful for the experience, and I'm showing up the way I am because I know that I can't be that person. I know
Mm-hmm.
that I can't be that person, but I can be me.
Mm.
And whatever title I bring home, it's because I was true to myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So win or lose, it's due to your own truth, right?
And I truly believe that when you live that way, you win.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yep. Yep. And now thinking about, fast forward to 2023, where every social media platform has filters.
Mhm.
I personally, I remember having this debate with, the internet, that for me, I would hold off judgment to other people, whatever gender, whether they show up barefaced, whether they don't shave, wax, whatever. And also, I don't want to pass judgment towards those who do any surgery, enhancement, or use filter. Because at the end of the day, whatever you're doing to other people, you're judging other people, that is adding on to the problem. So, what are your thoughts about the trend of beauty filter, especially on TikTok, where young girls are all over TikTok?
Absolutely. So, one thing that people will see on when they go to I always do my makeup and I
Yep.
like my makeup nice and clean and fresh. So,
Yep.
that's my son. He's sneezing. Sorry. So, I don't put filters on. It's
Mm.
like I stay far away from it. It's like I
Mm-hmm.
might the one, how when on Instagram it has like the one swipe just to make things a little
Yeah.
bit smooth. I
Yep.
guess that's considered a filter, but that's as far as I go.
Yeah.
I I of course don't judgmental either. I like to say, "Oh, they're having fun with it." But
Yeah.
inside, I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
hope that you're not using it to hide what you think are imperfections, and
Mm-hmm.
I hope you begin to think are your unique qualities about who you are and how you look, because
Yeah.
I truly believe that you are uniquely and beautifully made,
Yeah.
indi- and uniquely.
Mm.
And I think that with all of the things that and the stereotypes that are out there, the filters that are
Mm-hmm.
out there, it's giving these young girls a false um, perspective on what
Mm-hmm.
life really is.
Yeah.
And so, as much as I want to say have fun with the filters,
Yeah.
you have to be so careful around them. And I think that if they're having fun with the filters, that's one thing. But if they're
Mm-hmm.
hiding behind a filter,
Mm.
then there's some deeper rooted conversations that
Yes.
we need to have.
Exactly. Like if you use it as a mask as opposed to, just a tool that you can have fun with it. That's why I actually am grateful that when anyone uses filter on TikTok will put it there, what filter they are using, because I think that is a good signal to bring um, expectation back to reality. Like,
Hmm.
look, you might like what you're seeing, but look, this person is definitely using a filter. So don't think that you are expected to look like that all of the time.
Yeah.
So I hope that every platform is going to, keep using, signaling that this is real and this isn't. And that is one danger I think that the technology of AI with deep fakes and everything. But let's not go there for now. Let's go to, so what is your day job? As um so these days, what do you do for a living and what are you trying to build?
So that's interesting. Okay, so my actual day job, we actually
Mhm.
develop and build new homes. So I'm a part
Oh.
of the process, and just analyzing numbers in terms of what it takes to develop the land, what it takes to build the built actual homes. So that's what I do right now. Um, and then on the side is what I'm building. So I'm building
Mhm.
an empire because we have to think and talk big about inspirational coaching and mentorship to help women overcome trauma. So
Mm.
my story is I came from domestic violence and I'm raising two kids on my own and have been for the last 11 years.
Wow.
Now, that is the story that birthed what I want
Mm.
to do as an entrepreneur and propel myself forward.
Yeah.
Now, business is really just the side of what I want to do full time, take my full
Mm.
time and go into that.
Mhm.
But the reason why the pageant is so important in this conversation is
Mhm.
because through my experience
Mm.
and have been a beauty queen before, I no longer had my voice in my relationship. And it took
Mm.
many years to gain that voice back and that
Mhm.
confidence back. And so I always had it in me, even when I was like right off of the Miss Canada and I was out and going into life. I knew that there was one time in my life that I was going to recreate a new, a very new pageant that was going to initiate and really focus on women empowerment, of course, which most
Mhm.
all pageants do, and the confidence, absolutely, but to focus on using your voice and sharing your unique story. And
Mhm.
the reason why I think that is so important is because we, as women, oftentimes in this hard world, in this, king type of world,
Mhm.
we have to really step up. And we need to step up in a way where we're constantly aggressively using our voice in a graceful way. So,
Mhm.
sharing our story is so important. I want women to come out to this pageant, the teens, the miss, the misses. I have all the categories, and
Wow.
I want people to really relearn, rebirth
Mhm.
what it means to share their story and to know that they are beautiful and their story is unique and it's a story that can inspire others.
And do you, so how do you, I know this is an annoying question. How do you then juggle more that what I want to you to share is like what tips that you would tell other, especially single mothers, on how to do your be a mother, be a good worker, and be a good business founder.
Okay, so this is really interesting, especially too because like for any of you guys that are listening now, I'm still new at juggling all
Yeah.
these. And I can tell you that there are some high days where it's exciting and there are some low days, but we need to constantly have our goal at the top. We need to be reading that goal every day. We need to write it out every day. We need to remind ourselves that through the busy, give ourselves grace. We need to give ourselves grace if we've had a busy, long day, stressful day at work. And then
Mm-hmm.
you're coming home and you're driving your kids to baseball and you're not going to be home till 9:30 at the night, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got to walk the dog and feed the dog and feed the cat, right? So like you have to give yourself grace, but you have to put timelines
Mm,
on what you want to accomplish. So
mm,
for instance, this Miss Canada Glow is the first thing. Miss World Glow happens after. But
mm.
working on Miss Canada Glow, I know our first audition has to be this fall, which means
Yeah.
the first thing I need to line up sponsorship and I need to figure out how much it's going to cost me for that
Mm,
next year for Miss Canada Glow. And then furthermore, for Miss Globe, that's going to happen next fall in 2024. So I have to you have to sit down and plan your year. All
Mm.
the details will come as you're planning, as you're working on it, and
Mm-hmm.
communicating and collaborating with people as well. You don't have to do this on your own. You can get a board of directors that specializes in finance, specializes in
Mm.
specializes in administration. You can get people to help jump on board and propel you
Mm.
forward. So I think it's really important that you have that goal. That's the biggest thing. You need that goal crystal clear, and you need to be saying it to yourself every single day.
Now, down to the ugly truth of it all, how did every person going into business, first thing they think about, other than the mood board and the logo and all the cute little stuff, is the finances, right? How did you're supporting your family by yourself, and of course you have to put in capital, time, and energy, and yeah, and whether or not to hire someone. How did you walk us through the first months of you saying, okay, I'm gonna do this?
So it's really interesting. When you start sharing your story with trusted people,
Mm-hmm.
start sharing your ideas with
Mm-hmm.
those people that are excited about where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
I have found that the more that you share, there are some things that you keep to yourself, but
Yeah.
when you share with these specific people, they're
Mm-hmm.
like, I want to be a part of that. How can I help?
Ah, yeah.
So because the pageant isn't it's right now not like a full-time job, right?
Mm-hmm.
It will be, because then
Mm-hmm.
I'm now the director. I'm the owner, founder, director of
Yeah.
a huge global pageant.
Mm.
But when you start bringing in people that believe in what you're doing, if you find them, don't be afraid. They're not taking your idea, right?
Mm.
People that you trust, people that have been in your life, people that see the progression of where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
You can bring those people in and say, listen, let's have once a week or once a month. For me right now, it's a once a month thing. We have a quick Zoom call. I don't do it more than 30 minutes. And then
Mm-hmm.
we bridge out. Everyone's
Mm-hmm.
a mom, everyone's busy, but we have a goal. We need to get it done. So we jump on a call for a half an hour. Okay, what can you get done this month? What can
Yeah.
you do this month or in this week?
Mm-hmm.
Um, what do we need to accomplish? So really prioritizing your time and making it laser focused. Because I
Yeah.
know you get together with friends, it
Mm-hmm.
can be fun, but now you need to put on your business cap and you
Yeah.
need to say, listen, this is a 30-minute. We are all busy. We all need to get back to
Mm-hmm.
our lives. But we also want to make sure that this 30 minutes or this 45 minutes is so jam packed that we feel good about leaving it, doing our
Mm-hmm.
work, and coming back next month.
Mm.
So, prioritizing your time is really important, and just generating the ability for yourself to let go a little bit in areas
Mm-hmm.
that you know other people could take on better than you can, because they have maybe more time or that's their expertise, right?
Mm. Mm. And what mistake or failure along the way that you actually are glad that you made them because you learned something from them?
Well, that's a great question. And I think because I'm still at the very beginning, I'm going to continue making mistakes. And I think as
Oh,
an
of course.
you always will be making mistakes,
Yes.
right? So I think too, like jumping in too fast. I
Mm.
think that there's real beauty in allowing something to marinate
Yeah.
and allowing yourself to think and meditate on it, and then write things out. Give it
Mm.
some space, give it some time, come back to the drawing board, and
Mm.
then start delivering.
Mm.
I think when we jump too cold, into like the hot pot, it's
Yeah.
like to get out now. It's too
Yeah.
over. There's so much going on.
Mm.
There's so much creativity, so many ideas,
Mm.
but we need to slow it down a little bit, and then we need to say, okay, what is, where do we want to be at the end of
Mm-hmm.
the year? What is our big goal? Let's go after that big goal.
Mm-hmm.
But let's kind of give us like these little spots in between that we need
Mm-hmm.
to accomplish in order to get there.
Mm-hmm. And now that you are, as you mentioned, you're basically the mom and the dad of your family. How do you what would your advice be to fellow single moms bringing up their children, building up their business? What is the one thing? Because I know that having a support system is crucial, and especially when you don't have a supportive spouse or you don't have a spouse at all, how do you then, what advice would you give?
So this is awesome because
Mm.
this is all I've known as mother, right? I left when my kids were very young. I was pregnant with my daughter. So all I know is how to be a single mom. I don't know what support looks like.
Wow.
So I can say that my mom is a huge supporter, and it's almost
Mm.
like she's kind of like, my partner in crime, because she's been there for it
Yeah.
all. But in terms of like finances and making things work and getting our schedules, because my kids are a little bit older. My mom does have her own life and her other grandkids that need her.
Mm.
So now I'm feeling it more. And I think the biggest thing that we need to do, which even this week I was like on the phone with my health coach, my she's my personal trainer,
Yep.
and girlfriends, and they're just like, Shannelle, you have to remember that we're here for you, and you need to take time for yourself.
Mm.
It is so important. And I'm speaking to myself because it was a hard week. I had a speaking event, I had two other podcasts.
Yeah.
Um, saying I'm out meeting people, I'm out getting sponsorship. It's a go, go, go.
Mm. Mm.
But we have to prioritize ourselves.
Mm.
And we need to make sure that if we're not working out, we're going on a walk.
Mm.
If we need to be drinking our water, we need to be taking healthy steps to like nourishing our body.
Mm.
If we don't do that for ourselves, we will not have the energy
Mm.
to give ourselves that space and that time to create the beautiful business that's waiting for us. So take your time and spend it. Go to the baseball game and be 100% present. Then when you come home, you get everyone settled. Find those extra minutes where you're like, okay, I need to do this.
Mm.
If you're working a 9 to 5 like me, take your hour, do a podcast during that hour. Do like write out. If you need that hour that week, you've got 5 lunch breaks. So take one of those lunch breaks for you, right? My
Mm.
Friday is for me. So Friday, I go to Wendy's, I get a little baby Frosty and a baby, and I'm like, okay, this is for me. If it's a hot day, I sit outside, I go for a walk, and I
Mm.
breathe. This is
Mm.
Chanel's time to rejuvenate.
Mm.
So we have to prioritize self-care. We have to prioritize our health, and we have to prioritize the time we spend with our kids. All because we are a mom first.
Yeah.
And if we feel like we are giving and we are receiving in those areas,
Mm-hmm.
then you find time and the energy to do and build what you need to build.
And what about those who are now in the middle of experiencing trauma still going on, and in that trying to break out of the vicious cycle? And as we know, people in the outside of the realm would say, why can't you just leave, right? So I want to hear it from you, someone who's been there, done it, and now going to help other women to show up and not be afraid to tell their stories. So, what would you say to those listening who are like in the deep and thinking like, how am I going to get out of this? Yeah, what would you say?
I'd say take some time to really go within, take a morning, go for a walk, go to a place where there's water. Water is really rejuvenating.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just the sound of it it moves you. At
Mm-hmm.
least it does for me. But go somewhere where you can be at peace, quiet with yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and really think about what it is you want.
Mm-hmm.
If you figure out what it is you want, then you naturally will begin to take the steps to leave what you need to do to go. Like, for instance, for me, I need to leave my 9 to 5 in order to give my business 100%, right?
Mm-hmm.
I need to pay my bills.
Mm-hmm.
I have things that I need to support my family with in terms of finances.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm keeping it until I can build something big enough that I can say, okay, if I can make half the amount that I'm making right now
Mm-hmm.
with my business,
Mm-hmm.
at that point, I can say, okay, goodbye, 40-hour job.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can put 40 hours into my business
Yeah.
rather than 5 to 10 hours
Mm-hmm.
in days.
Yeah.
So you have to look at it that way, because we do need to be smart with our finances. We need to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that we're not strapping ourselves and
Mm-hmm.
just leaving something to jump into something when it's not ready yet, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We have to prepare ourselves financially to say, hey, we can let go of that. It's the same thing for any other kind of situation. Like,
Mm-hmm.
since you're going through your story right now, and you're like, well, how do I leave that story, right? How do I break free from this trauma or from that story? Again, you have to go within. What is best for me? How can I propel myself forward into a successful life? If
Yeah.
that means I need to leave this story behind me,
Mm-hmm.
but then use that as like my, okay, let's get some motivation here
Mm-hmm.
because I want to succeed, because I want to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
You really have to get into yourself and say, okay, this is what I need, and this is what I want.
Yeah.
Once you find what you desire, you're going to start making the movements that you need to.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Like you need to set your goal. Now, I have an interesting factoid. I think this is an arguable cliche. People say that the world is nicer to beautiful people. What has your experience been? Is it true? Or have you ever in your journey, especially trying to get sponsors and everything, do you think doors are open for you or people underestimate you because you're a woman, because you're a beautiful woman? Yeah. So settle the debate. Is the world better when you're beautiful?
You know what? I think the world is better when people are happy on
Mm.
because beautiful people, because you could be beautiful on the outside but have like a really unhappy life, right?
Mm.
You show up the way that you are inside.
Mm.
So you might be able to land a job, but you go through a vigorous process in most like 4 or 5 Fortune
Yeah.
companies. You go through a series of interviews. You don't just get handed the job because you look nice. You get handed the job because you've done the tests, because you
Yeah.
have a reputable resume, because the references all line up,
Mm-hmm.
because you've been through 2 or 3 in-person interviews talking to the whole management team.
Yeah.
They get to know you over the course of a month sometimes, those
Mm-hmm.
big companies. So I mean, it depends. Like, if you're working for a company that wants your services, they're going to look for your personality. That's
Yeah.
huge. If they're just looking for someone just to fill a position, then maybe someone is looking on the outside.
Mm.
But I truly believe that your work, your skill set, your attitude, your personality, that comes from within.
Mm.
So it really depends, I think, where you're looking for a job
Yeah.
and or where you're looking to work.
Mm.
I definitely believe that there is a way that we need to present ourselves when we're in the
Yeah.
public eye. Like, we're not, on TikTok, on Instagram, it's totally cool to be like, look, this is my life.
Yeah.
It's in a messy bun, I'm making a cake.
Yeah.
Literally, I at the same time, when we show up to something like a speaking event,
Mm.
I'm not going to show up in my track pants. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to show up the way that I want to show up.
Yeah.
For instance, last weekend I had a speaking event. I used my sash and crown from Miss Canada Globe as a prop. So I dressed the way that I would dress if I
Mm.
had a beauty queen, right? So
Yeah.
you show up the way you need to show up,
Mm-hmm.
and everything comes from within. And you'll land that job, you'll get that business, you'll get that sponsorship
Yeah.
when you believe in what you're asking for.
Yeah. And have you ever experienced any pushback and doubts from potential client or potential sponsors, and how have you overcome it or convinced them?
Right. So something that especially when it comes, it's actually more so the women that I get more pushback from.
Yeah.
Not all of them, because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of them are like, oh my gosh, you're doing such incredible
Yeah.
things. But some of the women that I've gone to for sponsorship, they're like, pageantry. And so what I do is I actually share with them my documentary to allow them to get to know me
Mm.
more, and the reason behind why it's important that I have this pageant, because I want women to be empowered by using their voice.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes there's one time last week I was trying to go and get sponsors, and one woman, she called me after and she's like, honestly, I wasn't interested at all. But once
Mm.
you sent me that documentary, now I know what you've been through. And she's like, I know people that have gone through that and still aren't speaking up. So she's like,
Mm.
now I understand. Now I want to be a part of this, because now I want to show my friend that she can stand up, and have a better life.
Oh,
And so,
wow. And
and so
where can I see that
yeah,
documentary?
I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you. It's a story about overcoming my story, domestic violence, and what it took to, move forward in life, and not put the story behind me. I can put it
Yeah.
behind me and move forward,
Mm-hmm.
but use that story as a tool to show people that no matter what you go through,
Mm-hmm.
you can create the life that you want to live, because you are in control. You are the author, you are the script writer, you are the shining star, you are the
Yeah.
main role. And that's what this pageant is all about. It's taking my wisdom that I learned about what it means to be silent,
Mm-hmm.
and then placing that crown literally back on your head and taking the power back.
Oh, perfect. Now, that is the perfect segue to my last question. So, finish the sentence, when I'm king.
When I'm king, I will inspire those to speak up and use their voice. And I think the biggest thing that I would want to share as a king and to be able to give to the world would be the importance of what it means to create and have your own goals, and not live by the standards of other people, but live by the standards of yourself.
Oh, that is beautiful in the truest meaning of the word. So, thank you again, Shannelle, for coming on to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
Yes, and listeners, please, if you love this episode, share it to your friends and please review it, because we want more women to listen to this episode and all the other episodes where I speak with all the other female founder representative from all over the world and all over type of businesses. Thank you again, and see you in the next episode.